Hey. So today I'm gonna talk about subcompetency number 7, which is to recognize appropriate research-based reading comprehension strategies to use before, during, and after reading. But before we jump into that, I have to go back because the last time I posted, I forgot to talk about summarizing. So when a student summarizes, they basically have to figure out what the main idea is. When you summarize, you only talk about the most important points of the story. You don't talk about the unimportant details. You just get through the before, the during, and the after the story. If you are summarizing for fiction stories, you can use the strategy of somebody wanted but so to help you summarize, or a student can use that strategy to help summarize. So the somebody is the main character of the story, and the wanted part is for what the character wanted, and then the but part is what kept them from getting what they wanted, and the so part is what did they do next in order to get what they wanted. And then at the end, and then if you have that, you talk about what happened at the end of the story. You can also write a sentence about what happened at the beginning, a sentence about what happened at the middle, and then also a sentence about what happened at the end of the story. So moving on to the next part is before reading activities. So I think I talked about this in one of my previous uh, videos. The anticipation guide, you have the KWL chart, the probable passage, questions and answers, and a tea party. You can go back to my other videos to figure out what these are, but basically these before reading activities will help a student become acquainted with the story, and also it will help the student predict or think ahead as to what will happen in a story. And it's good for helping a student use uh, metacognitive uh, metacognitive thought processes that will help them think while they read. So for some during reading strategies, you have say something, rereading, think aloud, double entry journals, logographic cues, bookmarks, compare and contrast using ABC boxes, post-it notes, character bulletin board, syntax surgery, and signal words. So let's look at the character bulletin board. The teacher will actually put up the character bulletin board, and usually he or she can put up a character bulletin board about you according to themes, whatever the theme is that the student is learning, her class is learning. She can put up the bulletin board according to that theme. So say something is the students partner up, and one student will read, and then the other student, when they run across a word that they don't know, they will say something while the other student is reading. And you'll ask a question about what you don't understand. Maybe it's a word that you don't really know. Maybe it's a question about what's happening in the story, or you will just make a comment about what the story maybe will make you think about, or what it reminds you of, or if you like it, what's your opinion. And then rereading is always a good way to raise your comprehension of a story, because every single time that you read the same text over again, you always find something that you might have missed in the previous reading. And then the think aloud is basically you'll be reading, and if a thought comes across your mind, you'll just say it out loud. This would have to be modeled by teachers, though. A double entry journal is usually you sort of annotate about what is happening in the story. For logographic cues, you could draw a picture about what you don't understand. Not really draw a picture, but little symbols about what you don't understand. And then go back and figure it out. And then bookmarks usually have questions. So the teacher might make a bookmark that will have questions, or we'll have a question every so often throughout the story to help a student stop and think and go back and reread and figure out, what the story is actually about. Compare and contrast using ABC boxes. So you'll use the alphabet to help you decide, uh, help you compare and contrast information that's in the story. And post-it notes, you just use the post-it notes to write down answers to questions that you might have asked or things that you're thinking about. What's your opinion? Same thing. Um, when you often use these when the student it can't write in the book. So you have I already talked about the character bulletin board, and then you got the syntax surgery when you go through and find all the words and the sentences, and you sort of kind of break it apart and analyze how the story is put together. And then you have your signal words, which are signal words where that um, you know what these words are in the beginning, but then when you find these words are to help you stop and think about what the story is telling you. And then some after reading strategies are there are two types of scales. You got the Likert scales and the semantic differential scales. And these scales are basically to help a student. The student will have to reread the story and then every time they read the story, they use a scale to decide how much they understand the story each time they read the story. And then you have the somebody wanted but so, and I already talked about that. And then you retell a story that it's more details in retelling a story than there are in summarizing a story. So basically a student can retell a story, what happened in the story, using more details than you actually use in a summary. And then the text reformation, you basically go through, sort of rewrite the story, kind of using different words. Or you can use different words, or you can say, for instance, if it was a nonfiction text, then you would rewrite this text as if it were a fiction text. Or if it were a fiction text, it would be vice versa. You write it as a nonfiction text or or something like that. You can even like do panels, retell the story, make it into a play. You can do like a talk show panel or something like that. So text reformations are kind of fun sometimes. It says, I say, so the student will read the story or the text, and the student says, well, the text says this, but I say, and then the student will basically reword the text in their own words, using their own words, in order to convey what their understanding of the text is. So sketch to stretch, you draw out the the events of a story or a text, a nonfiction text or a fiction text. You got save the last word for me and then the most important word. Those are both mostly kind of self-explanatory. So, competency 2 is understanding strategies for reading informational text. This will be my next video. So, if you have learned anything that will actually help you pass the Ohio Assessment for Educators test, please like, subscribe, or share. And then the next time that I post, I will talk about Competency 2. Thank you, and bye-bye.